And I'm Jake. Thanks for joining us again. Today's topic is simple but powerful. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Exactly. Sometimes we hope our life will magically get better. Maybe we'll become more confident, fluent in English, or happier. But we don't actually do anything different.
Yeah, we wait for change, but we don't make change. I used to do that with my fitness goals. I'd say, I'll start working out next week. But that next week never came.
Same here. For me, it was learning Spanish. I downloaded apps, watched videos, but didn't practice speaking. I expected improvement without action.
That's a common trap. People think motivation comes first, but really action creates motivation. When you start doing something small, you feel proud, and that feeling pushes you forward.
Totally. Let's pause here for our listeners. Useful phrase. Take the first step. It means to start something new, even if it's small, like taking the first step to speak English with a friend online.
Exactly. Or make a move, which means do something instead of waiting. For example, if you want a new job, make a move. Update your resume.
That's great. Sometimes small steps look too small to matter, but they really do. When I started waking up 10 minutes earlier just to stretch, it made my mornings calmer.
I like that. My example is journaling. I started writing one sentence each day, just one. But after a few weeks, I noticed my thoughts were clearer. That's like change grows quietly.
That's beautiful. Change grows quietly. I like that line. So, listeners, maybe think, what's one tiny thing you can do differently today? It could be listening to this podcast every morning.
Good one. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. Even the smallest step can open a new path.
All right, let's dive deeper. Why do we find it so hard to change in the first place?
That's the big question. Maybe it's about fear or comfort. Let's talk about that next.
So, Anna, you mentioned fear. I think that's a big reason people don't change. They're scared. Scared of failing, scared of being judged, or even scared of success.
That's so true. It's funny. Sometimes comfort can be more dangerous than fear. We stay in what's familiar because it feels safe, even if it's not making us happy.
Yeah, that's the comfort zone. It's like a soft, warm blanket that keeps us from growing. I remember when I stayed in a job I didn't like for years. The pay was okay, the people were fine, but deep inside I knew I wasn't learning anymore.
Oh, I totally get that. I had the same thing with relationships. I stayed friends with people who didn't really support my goals, just because I didn't want things to change.
Wow, that's real. It's like we sometimes choose familiar pain instead of unknown freedom.
That's a great phrase, familiar pain. It means we accept something uncomfortable because it's what we know. But when we step outside of it, new opportunities appear.
Yeah. Let's explain another phrase. Comfort zone. It means the place or situation where you feel safe but not challenged. For example, speaking English with new people feels scary because it's outside my comfort zone.
Exactly. And another one, step out of your comfort zone. It means to try something new that feels a bit scary. Like, I stepped out of my comfort zone when I joined an English club.
Last year, I decided to take a public speaking class. My hands were shaking at first, but that experience changed how I see myself. It showed me I could grow if I faced fear instead of avoiding it.
That's such a good point. Fear doesn't disappear. We just learn to walk with it. When I started recording this podcast, I was nervous too. But once we started talking, it felt natural.
Exactly. Change begins when courage becomes a little stronger than fear.
I love that. So, listeners, maybe ask yourself, what are you afraid to change right now? And what might happen if you tried anyway?
Great question. And maybe that's where the next step begins, not outside of us, but inside our thoughts.
Yes. Let's talk about that mindset shift next. So, Jake, you said something powerful. Change starts inside our thoughts. That's what I call a mindset shift.
Yeah. When people think change is only about doing new things, they miss the deeper part. It's also about thinking in a new way.
Right. Like if someone says, I'm just bad at English, that thought already stops them from improving. But if they change it to, I'm learning English and getting better, suddenly they have hope and energy.
Exactly. Our words shape our mindset. I used to tell myself, I'm not confident. But then I started saying, I'm becoming more confident. It sounds small, but it feels different.
Totally. There's a useful phrase for our listeners. Change your mindset. It means to think differently about something. For example, once I changed my mindset about mistakes, learning became easier.
I love that. Another one, see things in a new light. It means to understand something differently or more positively. Like, after talking to my teacher, I saw my problems in a new light.
That's great. I remember one of my students told me she always froze when speaking English. She thought everyone was judging her. But when she changed her mindset and realized others were also learning, she relaxed. And guess what? Her speaking improved right away.
That's such a good example, because mindset isn't magic, it's just perspective. When I failed my first driving test, I was embarrassed. But later I realized, wait, this is just part of learning. That thought helped me try again.
That's the secret. When we see failure as feedback, we stop fearing it. We learn and move forward.
So true. I think the moment we take our thoughts seriously, but not too seriously, we grow faster.
Nicely said. For me, it's like watering a plant. The plant doesn't grow faster because you shout at it. It grows when you give it the right environment. Same with our mindset.
Beautiful analogy, Anna. So if mindset is the soil, then responsibility might be the sunlight. It helps everything grow.
I love that transition. Let's talk about taking responsibility next, how it gives us real power to change.
So, responsibility, that's a big word. But to me, it simply means owning your life. Not blaming others, not waiting for luck, just accepting that your choices create your reality.
Exactly. It's like the moment we say it's my fault, but it's also my power, everything changes. Because if we created the problem, we can also create the solution.
Yes, I used to blame my job, my boss, even the weather for my bad days. But one day, I realized I'm the one choosing how to react. That was such a freeing thought.
That's powerful. You know, for a long time, I blamed my busy schedule for not learning new skills. But in truth, I was just afraid of feeling uncomfortable. Once I admitted that, I started learning again.
That's the magic of responsibility. It gives you control. Here's a phrase for our listeners. Take responsibility. It means to accept that something is your duty or your choice. Example, if you want to improve your English, take responsibility for your own practice.
And another useful one, own your choices. It means to stand by the decisions you make without blaming others. Like, I chose to rest today, and that's okay.
Nice. You know, one of my friends always said, nothing ever works out for me. But I noticed she never tried to change her habits. Once she started taking responsibility, setting a routine, learning one new thing each week, her life really shifted.
That's a great story. I think responsibility and freedom are twins. You can't have one without the other.
True. People sometimes think responsibility means pressure, but it's actually empowerment.
Exactly. Because when we say, I'm in charge, we stop waiting for others to fix things.
That's the turning point for many people, realizing they don't need to be perfect, just responsible.
Oh, that's a perfect lead into our next topic: how progress, not perfection, helps us keep going even when we make mistakes.
I love that. Let's go there next.
So, Jake, you mentioned something I really like: progress, not perfection. I think that's one of the hardest but most freeing lessons in life.
Totally. For a long time, I thought I had to do everything perfectly. If I made a mistake, I felt like I failed. But perfection is like chasing a shadow. You never catch it.
That's a great image. You know, many English learners feel that way too. They say, I can't speak until my grammar is perfect. But if they wait for that, they'll never start.
Exactly. A useful phrase here: embrace imperfection. It means to accept your mistakes and keep going anyway. For example, when I embraced imperfection, I started enjoying learning English.
Love that. Another good one: learn as you go. It means you don't need to know everything before you start. You learn along the way. Like, I didn't know how to cook, but I learned as I went.
That's so true. I remember when I first started playing guitar. My fingers hurt, the sound was awful, but I kept practicing. And little by little, I improved. That's progress.
I can relate. When we started this podcast, I wanted every sentence to sound perfect. I edited too much, worried too much, but then I realized people connect more when we sound real, not perfect.
Exactly. Progress is like climbing a hill. You may slip sometimes, but if you keep moving, you'll still get higher.
And sometimes we forget how far we've come because we're only looking at how far we still have to go.
That's such a good reminder. We should celebrate small wins, like saying a new phrase correctly or finishing an English episode without subtitles.
Yes. Listeners, try this. Before you sleep tonight, think of one small thing you did better today than yesterday. That's your progress.
I like that, because when we focus on progress, we enjoy the journey, and that keeps us motivated to move forward.
Exactly. Speaking of moving forward, let's wrap it up by talking about how to keep going even when things get tough.
Perfect. Let's finish strong.
So, Anna, we've talked about small steps, fear, mindset, and responsibility. But here's the hardest part. How do we keep going when change feels slow?
Yeah, that's such an important question because real change doesn't happen overnight. It's like growing a tree. You don't see much at first, but roots are forming under the ground.
I love that image. You know, when I was trying to get fit, I almost gave up after the first month. The scale didn't move, and I thought, what's the point? But one day I realized the goal isn't perfection, it's consistency.
That's such a good word. Consistency. It means doing something regularly, even when it's hard or boring. Like, your English will improve if you practice with consistency.
Exactly. Another useful phrase: trust the process. It means believe that your small actions will bring results over time, even if you can't see them yet.
I love that. I once taught a student who listened to English podcasts every day, even when she didn't understand everything. After 6 months, she told me she could suddenly catch whole sentences without subtitles. That's the power of patience.
Wow, that's inspiring. Sometimes when we feel stuck, it's not because we're not moving, it's just because we're growing quietly.
That's beautiful, Jake. Growth is invisible at first, that it's happening. That's why I always tell my students, be kind to yourself. You're doing better than you think.
Totally agree. And when you feel tired, remember why you started. That reason, your why, will keep you going when motivation disappears.
Exactly. Change isn't about speed, it's about direction. If you're still walking toward your goal, you're winning.
Couldn't have said it better.
All right, let's slow down a little and reflect before we close today's episode. You know, Jake, Today's talk reminded me that change really starts with awareness and grows through small actions.
Yeah, and it's not about doing everything perfectly, but about believing that small efforts matter. When we take responsibility, shift our mindset, and stay consistent, change becomes part of who we are.
I love that. And for everyone listening, maybe this week, choose one small thing to change. Wake up 10 minutes earlier, learn one new word, or speak English out loud once a day.
Exactly. And if it feels slow, don't worry. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes, but everything can change if you do.
That's a perfect ending. Thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, real English is about connection, not perfection.
See you next time on Feel English Podcast. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. Bye for now.
Bye.